She is unrepresented, Your Honor.
Okay, you're not representing her.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, we called a case of 22-239. Margaret Bruno, is it Lucia?
This is who you're calling right here, Your Honor.
Yeah.
Just so we're clear, I'm representing the, authorized representative for the legal fiction. And I cannot cross the bar if you I can't cross the bar, you know that.
From the very start, the sovereign citizen grandma scene sets the tone for a familiar display of pseudo-legal nonsense wrapped in misplaced confidence. Her insistence that she represents a legal fiction rather than herself is classic sovereign citizen rhetoric. Essentially, word salad meant to sound intelligent. What makes this case particularly entertaining is the contrast between her exaggerated formality and the judge's calm patience. She proudly claims to stand on the land and soil, apparently unaware that courtroom jurisdiction isn't a playground concept. This first exchange showcases how these individuals cling to misinterpreted legal terms, thinking they can outsmart centuries of judicial structure by refusing to acknowledge it. It's delusion masked as defiance, and she genuinely believes she's found a loophole in the fabric of reality itself.
I can hear you this time.
All right.
All right, I just want to be clear that when I was here for the arraignment, first off, I never had a first appearance. Within 24 hours, I was incarcerated for 13 days without a first appearance. Bond was set.
And that's true because you wouldn't sign the documents at the jail. Until you sign documents at the jail, you don't.
Where is that written that you have to sign anything? Because I couldn't find it. It just simply says within 24 hours I would go before a judge. I had
You
felony
weren't properly
charges.
booked, so that's the way that was. But I'm not going to argue with your point. But go
Okay,
ahead.
well, I just want to get it on the record that I am here on a special appearance, and I'm just the authorized representative for this birth certificate. It has been federally authenticated, if you want to take a look at it. It has been certified by the state and federally authenticated. I am the owner of this SQQV. Do you understand what that means?
Not a clue.
As she continues to explain why she cannot cross the bar, the absurdity deepens. The bar, in her mind, isn't a symbol of legal professionalism. It's some imaginary line separating corporate courts from common law. This is one of the oldest sovereign citizen tropes, born from a misunderstanding of courtroom layout. The judge, displaying admirable restraint, simply listens while she crafts her own fantasy of jurisdictional immunity. Her claims of being federally authenticated and an authorized representative of her birth certificate show how deeply she's fallen for internet mythology about strawman identities. Each sentence sounds like a cut-and-paste job from Facebook legal gurus, turning what should be a legal proceeding into a seminar on delusion.
Well, I'm under the public law,
Okay.
and I have a right to pass through service.
All right, so I take it you're representing yourself today?
No, I am presenting myself.
Okay. So you're not going to enter a plea today or work out negotiations or anything?
I'm not making any plea whatsoever. I have not consented to contract with this court in any way.
Okay.
I'm an American state national. I'm not a sovereign citizen. That was a hate crime under which I was arrested, and the arresting officer has since quit his job with the Jasper Police Department.
All right, well, say we can,
I have a file here that I have one prepared for both the prosecutor and for you, Judge, if you'd like to take a look and go along with me on what I'd like to bring before the court. My goal is that this case get dismissed with prejudice before I walk out today.
well, that's not going to happen.
Pow!
All right, well, here's what we're going to do today. I'll look this over for you. I'll look this over.
This file is not completed. Let me explain. All the highlighted areas, I met with the clerk of court, Greg Godwin, and the areas that were in yellow here, I expected that he would be able to provide the information for me to complete these documents. I am not able to mail them until I can get them completed. He suggested that I talk with, is it John Durham, or who is it, Durant? Am I getting that correct, Tabitha?
That's Mr. Durrett, the state attorney.
Durrett, okay. He suggests that I should talk with him as far as getting this information completed. He said he wasn't able to complete the information, otherwise I can hire somebody to get this information for me. So if this case is not going to be submitted, with the first letter in here is a fair notice and warning letter, and it speaks to what the issues are here. First off, it was a false arrest because I do have a right to travel. No, and then also there is no contract. The application for a driver's license does not tell anybody that you are.
When the judge asks about her plea, she proudly declares that she will not contract with the court. This line reveals a central belief in sovereign citizen ideology, that laws are optional unless you consent to them. The irony, of course, is that every functioning society operates on collective consent to law, not individual opt-outs. Her attempt to frame her arrest as a hate crime for being called a sovereign citizen adds another layer of comedy. It's both dramatic and nonsensical. The judge doesn't even bother correcting her, likely because any logical response would only fuel her persecution narrative. This section highlights the psychological need behind such behavior. These individuals crave control in a system they don't understand, mistaking defiance for empowerment.
I have a right to face an accuser, and there's nobody here that was harmed. Deprivation of due process, Your Honor. You denied me a first appearance, and I have not heard the charges because I am hard of hearing. I brought that to the attention of the court at the arraignment, and your comment was simply, I'm talking as loud as I can. Well, that doesn't do any good for somebody who has a disability, and you have a responsibility to me under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
She then presents her documents, full of yellow highlights and missing information, insisting they prove her sovereignty. The judge's willingness to even look at them shows remarkable patience. Her belief that the clerk or prosecutor must complete her pseudo-legal forms underscores her total misunderstanding of legal process. Sovereign citizens often mimic legal formatting to give weight to nonsense, mistaking paperwork for power. Her fair notice and warning letter sounds intimidating, but has no legal standing. It's the courtroom equivalent of sending a vibe check, watching her explain her paperwork. Like a magic shield is both fascinating and tragic. It's a case study in how misinformation creates self-inflicted chaos.
I have issues with that. So up until, I still haven't really heard the charges. You know, when it started out, I was slammed with 7 felony charges. Had a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights because they did a search and seizure of my vehicle. They tossed my car completely. He claimed he found the phone in my car. He didn't. He took it out of my hand after shoving my arm. That was assault and battery. And then when I got into the police vehicle, my keys were in my pocket. He took them out of my pocket. All right, that again is assault and battery.
Next comes the predictable invocation of the right to travel, a cornerstone of the sovereign citizen religion. She argues that driving is a God-given right, ignoring that roads, licenses, and traffic laws exist for collective safety, not divine testing. Her belief that the state tricks citizens into trading rights for privileges through driver's licenses shows how deeply she misunderstands contract law. The commentator's sarcastic challenge, asking her to cite the Bible verse granting her the right to drive, perfectly undercuts her argument. What's striking is how passionately she believes in this, suggesting her conviction isn't performative, but sincerely delusional. It's zealotry wrapped in bureaucratic language.
8 days. He allowed me to sit in jail for 8 days with felony charges hanging over my head, of which you put a $38,000 bond on me without my participation. Again, that was a violation or deprivation of due process. The felony charges were bogus. I'm an international notarial witness for the United States of America, unincorporated. I had those, the driver's license on my phone and birth certificates because I do remote notarization for people. I had a right to have that. I had it by permission of the people that sent it to me. The prosecutor, Dana Brady Giddens, she failed to act for 6 days. After, on July 1st, Travis transferred it from the felony side over to misdemeanors. She sat on it for 6 days. I sat in jail for 13 days, not even knowing what was going on. And And it wasn't until after I got out of jail and I called her, and while I was on the phone, she goes, "Oh, here it is." She asked me what my name was, and she goes, "Oh, here it is," and she opened it while I was on the phone. So Travis sat on it for 7 days. Whatever happened to due process? Don't they have a responsibility to act timely? Because I know I do. I was kidnapped and taken to a prisoner of war camp. I had no choice in this, and I'm an American. I'm an American state citizen. I stand above this court. I stand above this for-profit corporation. First time that I saw you, sir, was 44 days after my arrest. And again, my Americans with Disability Act rights were violated in that you made no accommodation at all for my not being able to hear you. So as far as I know, I never did put in a plea. I have not pled in any way whatsoever. I have not consented. I have signed absolutely nothing. I signed no citations. I have had communication with Tabitha and Dana. We have been writing back and forth on our 72 rule of response, and I can't get answers out of them. They keep telling, I ask for documentation, and all I get is no documents responsive, no documents responsive, over and over again. I ask her for her oath of office on Florida letterhead, nothing. I get a scrap of paper. I ask her for a signed contract on my side, I get a citation that's not signed. The citation wasn't even signed by the arresting officer, it's by somebody else, and it has.
As the monologue drags on, she claims she was kidnapped and taken to a prisoner of war camp, escalating from legal confusion to dramatic fantasy. This exaggeration reveals a victim complex typical of sovereign citizens. They reframe lawful arrest as tyranny to sustain their identity as martyrs. She accuses prosecutors of dereliction and paints every delay or formality as proof of systemic corruption. Her fixation on being an American state citizen, who stands above the court, captures the irony of the movement. They demand recognition from institutions they claim to reject. It's both contradictory and oddly theatrical, as if she's performing a one-woman revolution in a small-town courtroom.
I haven't contracted at all, and why? Because I don't need to. I'm not under these statutes, rules, regulations, codes, ordinances, mandates, and all the rest. I tried to explain that to the public defender here that you assigned to talk to me. And then basically everything out of his mouth came out right out of this hate crime document called Law Enforcement Guide to Sovereign Citizens. I'm not a Moor. I'm not a Waukesha nation. I'm an American state citizen. Okay. To call somebody a sovereign citizen is slander. To put it in writing is libel. Sovereign is a king, somebody who is governing, self-governing. Citizen.
At this stage, her grievances multiply like a hydra. She insists her due process was violated because she couldn't hear, yet deliberately refuses to approach the bench where she could hear better. The contradiction would be funny if it weren't so sincere. She piles on accusations, assault, battery, even rape, for actions as trivial as an officer removing keys from her pocket. This isn't legal argumentation. It's emotional storytelling disguised as law. Her inability to distinguish between inconvenience and oppression is a hallmark of sovereign rhetoric. The commentary's tone here is sharp and mocking, but it captures a crucial truth. When people weaponize ignorance, courts become theaters of absurdity.
You know, the public all caps name. And to keep the public charitable trust in balance, you know? Roosevelt put us on an all-debit system, and these credits have been stolen from the people. And all I'm trying to do is my responsibility here. So I'm planning to subrogate this. If you look at the second document, or maybe you already have, and you've seen the list of people I will send it to. Governor DeSantis has been involved in my case. I have a letter here that was sent to him. If you would like to see that, let's see, maybe it's in one of the other files. Anyway, he has been involved in this as well, because he is also part of the problem here, in that he is not assisting the Americans within this state to be safe from the harm that is being caused by this system, by the law enforcement officers and deputies who are not educated.
Her obsession with oaths of office, signatures, and wet ink contracts reveals the mechanical nature of sovereign citizen logic. They believe that if a document isn't physically signed or stamped just right, reality itself doesn't apply. She claims every missing signature voids the state's authority, turning routine bureaucracy into a grand conspiracy. The judge, likely long past the point of caring, just lets her talk herself in circles. This tactic, letting a sovereign citizen exhaust their script, is often the only way to de-escalate such nonsense. By demanding eye contact and accusing the judge of ignoring her, she reveals her true motive. Not justice, but validation. She wants acknowledgement more than resolution.
Both the police chief and the sheriff on 2 different occasions, they have my fee schedule as to what I'll be charging when this is all over and I have to come back and have my rights restored and my property restored. My car was towed from in front of the police station. That's where I was when all this happened. I was in talking to Chief Rickerson. I went in and I noticed both the chief and the sheriff, the clerk of court, and the property appraiser when I got here back in March, that I was an American state citizen and I'm not a U.S. citizen. They were both noticed. They've both been noticed twice. And along with that was the fee schedule of what I charge when my rights are violated.
Wow! The land of make-believe!
I was talking with the police chief for the 4th time. We have sat down and had 4 conversations on how we educate the officers to know the difference so people are not harmed on the side of the road. I wasn't even on the side of the road. I was parked in front of the police station when all this went down. I wasn't even in my car. This officer got in my face back in April and he stood there. I was meeting with the police chief, Chief Rickerson. At that time, he was an interim police chief. And this officer barged into our discussion and got in my face and started spitting on me with his saliva. He was like this close to me, yelling at me, telling me, I'm a police officer for 25 years and I've dealt with plenty of people like you. And he went on and on and on, okay?
When she rants about Roosevelt, credit systems, and balancing public and private accounts, her narrative shifts from pseudo-law to full-on conspiracy. She's channeling the strawman redemption myth, the belief that everyone has a secret government trust worth millions that courts and banks are hiding. Her claim that she's balancing the accounts of the public makes her sound like a delusional accountant of freedom. These beliefs often stem from economic frustration and distrust in institutions, twisted into financial mysticism. The more she speaks, the clearer it becomes that this ideology offers psychological comfort. It turns confusion into a sense of hidden power. Unfortunately, in court, that comfort translates to chaos.